Welcome to Wii Missed, where I find and play those Nintendo Wii games that got lost in time. Today I'm taking a look at a marble rolling game because, well, logic entails those games should be right at home on a console with motion controls. Let's check it out. Episode 3, Marble Saga Kororinpa. So yeah, why did I pick up Marble Saga Kororinpa to play for this series? Two main reasons. The first being I personally have a soft spot for the GameCube Super Monkey Ball games, so 1 and 2, and I think they hold up well 20 years later, so even though this isn't exactly Super Monkey Ball, it makes sense to me that a Wii marble rolling game might also hold up too, and could have been overlooked a bit. The second reason is this is actually the sequel to Kororinpa Marble Mania, released a couple years prior for the Wii. And even though neither game sold well at all, I thought it was a good sign that a game got a relatively quick sequel release, and again, naturally a console designed around motion controls feels like a match, so let's see how Marble Saga Kororinpa plays. When loading up Marble Saga for the first time, we're given 3 options: easy, normal, and Wii balance board. I'll talk about the balance board mode later, and I'll be playing this game on normal difficulty. We're then treated to a brief, shoehorned in story about an ant needing to collect a special sunflower seed or something. I didn't know it at the time, but there are maybe like 4 cutscenes over the course of the entire game, so as you can probably imagine, the story, if you will, is a bit of an afterthought. It honestly doesn't make any sense either, but this is a marble rolling game, so again, it doesn't matter really. After this brief cutscene, we get tossed into a first batch of levels. When starting a level, you'll have 2 main goals. The first is collecting all the crystals placed around the level, tracked on the top left portion of the screen. Without all the crystals, you won't be able to activate the end level portal. The second main goal, at least in story mode, is to collect this tree stump part, which is the main collectible in the game, and you'll need all 60 of them to unlock the final batch of levels and, well, beat the game. This is usually hidden in a more difficult section of the level or off the main path a bit, so you may have to do a little bit of exploring to track it down. The game does have a built-in map you can access from the pause menu, which is nice for seeing what challenges lie ahead or to search for that missing stump part. There are also 2 additional side goals on every main level to complete. The first is collecting the green crystal, which is an optional collectible tied to unlocking additional bonus levels and marbles. Like the stump part, this is often hidden in one of the trickier spots on any given level. And finally, the game is timed. The quicker you complete a level, the better trophy you get, with the best times getting gold and platinum trophies, which will also unlock additional marbles. Now, when playing the main story mode here, the time portion doesn't really matter as long as you get all the crystals and stump parts, you'll proceed forward. In terms of the controls, as you can assume, you tilt the Wii remote in a certain direction and the level will mirror your tilts pretty much 1-to-1. This is shown by an on-screen indicator on the bottom right of what you see here. Unfortunately, this is when the game's biggest and most nagging flaw becomes apparent, and that is actually the in-game physics engine. Even though the levels tilt very responsively to what you are doing with the Wii remote, the marbles themselves don't behave in a way that makes a ton of sense. They kind of like stick to the surfaces up to a certain point and don't move much at all until you get to a certain tilt level, and then they kind of like fly around. It's like if you're holding a cup of ice and just want like 1 ice cube out, so you tilt the cup back, but then all the ice comes out at once. That's kind of how it feels playing this game. There's such a small window where the game goes from marbles barely rolling to flying quickly around, and even after a ton of practice, where you will get used to it a bit, it never feels quite right. Now, later in the game, there are ways to mitigate this, but that doesn't happen until the literal end of story mode, and I'll explain what that is when we get there. Unfortunately, the initial marble physics is just one of the main issues I had with the game design pretty much out the gate. The second is actually how extreme you have to hold the Wii remote in order to tilt the levels themselves. So bear with me here, but pretend you're holding out a Wii remote or even hold out your cell phone in your hand. Now tilt it forward as far as you can. You can maybe go like as far as 45 degrees in most directions before it naturally gets a little uncomfortable. The problem with a lot of the levels in this game is they require you to tilt levels to such extreme angles, even greater than 90 degrees, basically upside down at that point, and it's actually a bit uncomfortable at times to play and makes executing the more difficult levels that much harder. The camera also gets a bit wonky past the 90-degree mark, making lining up your path trickier than it needs to be. Essentially, in my opinion, they needed to increase the sensitivity here by like 50% to make it more practical. Yes, that would mean the Wii Remote doesn't mirror the level exactly, but it would increase the playability or at least make it an option. What helps a little bit though is there is an option to hold the Wii Remote horizontally with two hands, and that's what I went with pretty quickly to help combat the more exaggerated motion controls. By the way, I thought maybe I was going crazy, but a quick Google search shows tons of old threads of folks complaining about the same thing, with some pointing out the first Marble Mania game controls infinitely better. So it's a bit interesting they thought this needed to change with the sequel. Back to the main game, and as you can see, we're rolling along to several new worlds, each adding some clever little in-game devices and gadgets to keep things fresh. The first being some cannons that launch your marble in a direction you're pointed at after a couple seconds. I honestly hated these at first, but I did get used to them eventually. The second world, which is house-themed, adds in moving platforms, fans, and even these on-rail sections to mix up the gameplay a bit. By the way, as these levels get a little longer, the game adds checkpoints, which are absolutely essential to tolerating the gameplay. If I had to start from scratch on these levels every time I fell off, I'm not sure I would have stuck with it. But with these checkpoints, even trickier levels can be attacked in doses versus all at once. The third world is desert themed and adds conveyor belts, obstacles, and takes away a lot of the side walls. The fourth world is unsurprisingly ice-themed, which is the first time the game introduces different surfaces. As you can imagine, these are extra slick, so you have to be a bit careful in these sections. By the way, as we're completing these levels, other bonus worlds are unlocked unrelated to the story mode, and give you additional levels and themes like a haunted one, a city theme, and a food-themed world. After this snow level, we get some underwater ones, and the game really adds a ton of moving platforms and these cool little devices that both shrink and enlarge the marbles, leading to more interesting level design. World 6, the game heads to space and adds some cool elements like teleports, moving tunnels, and this level rotator thing that flips the level upside down. Once completing all 6 of these worlds and collecting all 60 stump parts, the final batch of 10 levels are unlocked, called the Stump Tree, and you'll have to complete those 10 levels in order to beat the game. These levels are a combination of pretty much everything you were doing before, and I actually thought this is where the game finally hits its stride. At this point, I already sunk in maybe 10 hours of gameplay, so I was handling the controls better, and the level design here is finally more fun than frustrating, unlike a lot of the earlier levels. After completing the Stump Tree, the ants thank you for all of your efforts, and the credits roll. Something I know I glossed over earlier is the game actually allows you to choose your marble at the start of each level. These marbles have different stats, 4 categories: response, speed, slide, and bounce on a scale of 1 to 10. What is weird is that a lot of the marbles you unlock first all have very similar stats, so it's more of an aesthetic thing. Like the frog marble, the pig, the panda are all pretty similar to the original marble, just with a worse response time, so I mostly stuck with the boring original option the entire time. It's a little funny to hear the animal noises come out of the Wii Remote directly when they bounce off walls. I kind of forgot the Wii Remote has a built-in speaker, but yeah, it's a nice little novelty. What truly changes the game completely is unlocking the Earth Marble. So the Earth Marble is unlocked after beating the challenge level on the space station in World 6, and it truly changes everything. This is the first marble you unlock with high speed and slide stats, and it's crazy how much better it feels to use this marble versus any of the other ones we were stuck with basically the entire time. Yes, the controls are still a little wonky at those extreme tilt levels, but this marble alone gets rid of those weird, kind of unresponsive physics I was referring to earlier that we were stuck with for most of the game. It's such an unfortunate design choice that this wasn't the default marble, and I'm afraid many people might have put this game down too early without unlocking it first. What's also fun is after beating the game, you unlock a customizable kind of figurehead marble, and you can put your Mii characters into it, and probably more importantly, completely customize your marble stats. Almost all those issues I had with the physics initially are a moot point now, and it's too bad it took, beating the main game to unlock this. I should mention outside of the main single player experience, Marble Saga has a surprising amount of other game modes. There's a free mode that allows you to play locally with up to 4 players, a time attack mode, and a survival mode that challenges you to take on a bunch of levels in a row without falling once. Something I did not test either is the game's inclusion of 30 or so levels built for the Wii balance board. And I may dive into funky Wii accessories later in this series, but just know there is a batch of simpler levels made with the Wii balance board in mind. When this game was released, it also would have had a decent amount of online features that are obviously no longer accessible now. There were online leaderboards for I think any level, which would have been cool to see, and what is probably the biggest selling point, the ability to create and share your own custom levels using junk and gadgets you've collected when playing the main game. Basically, in addition to those stump collectibles, you can replay levels to unlock other junk, which in turn creates additional objects you can use to build your own levels. Here's a time lapse of me creating a quick level to test it out, and yeah, it's actually pretty awesome. It controls well, it's easy to use, and I could easily even today lose countless hours in here trying to create some levels, and I can only imagine what some folks would have created back in the day. Even though you can't share these online anymore, having the ability to make and play my own levels is awesome and adds some life to the game even here in 2026. So yeah, that's pretty much everything that Marble Saga has to offer, and on to our final grades. Let's start with the gameplay as usual here, and I would say it's adequate for a marble rolling game. It lacks a bit of the wow factor, but new ideas are progressively added in, and it keeps it interesting enough that I would say it's a respectable B-. Controls is where this game falters out the gate with some incredibly unfortunate design choices, making you use the unresponsive starting marbles that have those very weird friction mechanics. Also, those unnecessary extreme angles you need to contort the Wii Remote makes for a frustrating time, so controls get a D. Although this would be bumped up a couple grades if they just gave us the Earth Marble to use at the start of the game. Wii Missed here gets a C as the motion controls help as much as they hurt, and that would be the main appeal to playing this on the Wii console. Tentacle gets a C for me as well. The game performs well outside of the controls, but lacks a bit of polish in the menu design, so a C feels about right. And finally, Longevity is a B. I'm not aware of any other marble rolling games, even on modern consoles, with a level creator feature, and that helps give the game a bit of life, and it holds up in that sense. Overall, it's clear a decent amount of effort was put into the game with good depth, lots of unlockables, decent if a little plain at time level design, and a variety of game modes, but man, it controls so poorly initially that it's a tough recommendation to non-patient gamers, or even patient ones for that matter, giving the game a C overall. If you can get through the story mode, unlock the easier to control marbles, your experience will be massively elevated, especially if you're a bit of a completionist. I just think so many people will never get to this point and put the game down first. This comment from a Redditor probably sums up the average experience with the game, and I'll read it verbatim. Fun, challenging, frustrating, rolled into one. Got it, play it occasionally, mostly rage quit after about 20 minutes or so and forget about it for months and months and repeat. I think that's the perfect summary for Marble Saga. If you persevere, the grass is greener on the other side, but man, it's a tough ask for a lot of gamers to do that, especially if you don't realize how game-changing the better marbles are. I don't know, maybe the first game in the series is better, even if it lacks a lot of the features shown here. Seems like it might be, so if anyone has any marble rolling recommendations for the Wii, I would love to kind of compare it to this game eventually, so just let me know. Until then, thanks for watching this episode of Wii Missed, and I'll catch you for the next one.